Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is.
Pato.
And also.
Yes, I am Reverend Crimsoniculus.
So look at that, guys. We have a guest again this week, and it's not a weird, large dick alien.
Right. Slightly less schizophrenic person.
Regular
it's a new
sized
schizophrenic.
junk. Regular
Good
sized
old-
junk. Not an alien.
Just your average Midwestern reverend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have this week. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be a fun time. This is our first episode where we have a guest through the entire show, so you get to partake in an introduction story time, I guess.
Okay.
And I do have some stories actually. So I went back to Point Pleasant yesterday because I live there pretty much. And we actually found some really cool stuff. We've been looking, there's like these giant structures out there, which I'm sure if you follow me on social media, you've seen. But there's some giant structures out there that we've been looking for probably since about March or April. They're like these huge aqueducts. So when you go out to Point Pleasant, the big weird creepy place is the McClintock Wildlife Management Area, and it's now a nature reserve, and it used to be the power plant where they created the munitions for World War II and then stored them in those creepy ass bunkers that everybody's come to know and love. But nothing really exists anymore from the power plant except the bunkers, except for the aqueducts that are still there. And we've seen them like from the road a couple of times, but we couldn't really figure out how to like get back in there. Well, the fun thing about going this time was that I've never been to Point Pleasant in the fall. So you can see through the trees. So we were able to locate the aqueducts and we go back there and it was, I mean, it was cool. But it was a big open space, but there was also a weird abandoned building thing and I have no idea what it is. So, down the rabbit hole I go again, but it was cool. We went down there initially to, go randonauting and that did not do anything.
Oh, yeah. To bring things full circle.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, can't wait to hear what happened.
Yeah, so we go down there and the thing, and I kind of explained randonauting and one of Pat's first episodes actually, we go down there and we start, we kick it on and it gives you this random point and it keeps taking us just to houses, but it's still keeping us like in the housing area. And like, even though we would like drive out to like the TNT area where there's nothing and be like, oh, take us somewhere around here, it still wouldn't. So I don't know. It was a weird time. It was kind of like, I mean, as far as like inducing synchronicity goes, it was kind of like it was saying, because we saw the aqueducts and we did all that and we were pretty much done. And they're like, you're done here. And I think and it was weird. It felt really final. I think that aside from doing interviews with people and scheduled things like that, I think that I'm done officially doing field work in Point Pleasant. It was a strange day. So
was it bittersweet? I mean, I'm sure you'll go back there.
We'll go back, and we'll definitely go back. Anne was saying how she's, she was sad. She was sad about it. And we've got other places to go. We're still going to Chicago and, we're going down to Kentucky. So, we're doing things, but it's hard. It's kind of a hard reality to accept because it's like, unless I'm just going to just go down just to hang out in the woods and hope to catch a glimpse of something, then I don't really have a reason to go back anymore. I've pretty much found everything I need to find down there. So now
Mothman's territory is quite a bit larger than just Point Pleasant.
It is, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, there's still plenty of places I can go and explore, as far as that goes. It's just that, for me, it started in Point Pleasant. So it's hard, but it'll be okay. We've got interviews and stuff to do still. So that'll be fun. But it was a good time. Anne introduced me to a new band, actually, thanks to the Reverend here. They're called Cybertronic Spree.
Oh, yeah. They're a Canadian band, and it's actually they're all dressed up as Transformers from the 1986 movie.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's absolutely
wonderful.
I am
The
sad they don't have like a feature length, like a full album. At least not that I could find. I don't know if
Well,
they.
they did just finish a Kickstarter for one recently. I actually have their it's basically a redux of the 1986 soundtrack done
By
by
Stan
them.
Bush.
Yes, yes, Stan Bush and all at all.
It's
Wow.
amazing,
Yes,
and
they
it
have a
is
pretty
really
good
good.
Dare to Be Stupid as well.
Oh, by Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
yeah, we were listening. We were jamming to that on the 2 hour drive, and I was like, why am I just now hearing about this? What the fuck? So I think that, for you guys listening out there, I think it'd probably be up your alley because I know you're a bunch of weirdos and nerds like me. So you should.
So on the way back from Point Pleasant, did you listen to Graduation Day by Vitamin C and
Oh,
have a good cry?
No,
Because
it was Good Riddance by Green Day. No, like I said, it was hard, but we stopped off. This one's kind of surprise, but I guess it makes sense to reveal it here. So we actually took a detour on the way home to Athens, Ohio, which is home to Ohio University. Not Ohio State University, but Ohio University, and apparently it's haunted as fuck. And we went there, and nobody's there right now. Well, first of all, I think all colleges like closed early because of COVID or something, or like I think they did. Nobody's
right,
on
and we got that
campus.
first county is purple now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, right. So a lot of places have closed. So, we went there and we found their observatory and we went up there for a little bit, hung and, just dicked around. And then there's this old cemetery. So I guess it's like the original, like where lobotomies were were invented because it used to be an insane asylum. And there's this old cemetery there that they used to just have the graves marked, which I guess at least they had them marked, but they just had them marked by numbers. And they've got them all in like a little cluster, and then there's like other various graves out there. So we kind of hit the cemetery for a minute, and then I was like, I don't feel like getting arrested today. Let's come back when we're allowed. So we left. But we're gonna go back and explore and do the ghost hunting thing, so that'll be super exciting. But it was cool. It was new stuff. That's the thing about it, is that even though it had kind of a sad ending to the day, it was definitely a road to new things. So it'll be lots of fun to see what happens in the future. But that's pretty much the highlight of my week. I don't know, Pat, did you have anything exciting happen this week?
Not really. Most of my month has been dedicated to NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, which I don't do every year, but I took it upon myself to do this year. And basically what you have to do is through the course of November from the 1st to the 30th, you have to write a 50,000 word novel or novella. It depends on how you look at it. Like as a point of reference, like The Dead Zone is like 50,000 words, right? Or Hearts of Darkness is like 50,000 words. So technically it's a book, but it's like a shorter book.
Okay.
And it basically comes down to like 2,000 words a day, which isn't hard to do, but it's hard to do every day. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever did the Millennium Club where you have to take a shot of beer a minute for 100 minutes. It's like everyone hears that and they're like, oh, well, that's doable. And it is for like the first 35 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But it's the back end that gets you where you're like, holy fuck, I can't keep this up. So as obviously as we know from looking at the calendar, we are at the end of November. And I'm right on track to where I should be, but it's like now it's getting like
Down to crunch time.
Yeah, and I'm right, basically right on track to where I should be for the 24th. But every day is just like writing another 2,000 words and stuff, and sitting down and doing it. And I have no doubt in my mind that I'll finish it. But that's literally been like what my life has been this whole month, but especially this past week. But I did want to.
Understand.
Yeah, it's it's good. It's rewarding though. And next week when it's all over, because the next time we record is December 1st, I'll get into more like what it's like working on it, as I'm sure you know from the documentary. But when you work on a creative project that's that like intensely all encompassing, it affects your life. You know what I mean? Like it affects your headspace, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, it gets very magical. And when it's all over, I can't wait to talk about it. But it's not over yet, so I'm not going to get too much into it right now.
It was probably the first time I've ever been down to Point Pleasant where I just didn't really have the energy to be there. It kind of sucked. I was like, man, this is so uneventful. I'm just not I just wasn't in a great headspace. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I guess I just wasn't meant to be down there that day. I'm not sure.
Right. Well, I mean, it could just be something where, like, you got to direct your energy in a different direction for a little bit, and that you've kind of
Yeah.
exhausted that avenue, and now it's time to explore another one. And that door's not closed to you. It's not like,
No, and that's
Point
what I was
Pleasant
saying to Anne. I
was
was
a
telling
raising.
her, she's so sad about it. She's like, I'm sad about it being over. I'm like, but it's not over. It's just the start of
Right.
something else. It's not finished yet. We're not done. We still have Chicago, and she's like, and I told her, the more stuff pops up, because Anne's been doing more of the history, and like she's been piecing together a timeline, which we've contacted a lot of people. Have actually started really reaching out to the residents of Point Pleasant. I've had a lot of really weird things, which which aren't exactly the Mothman, but they're still incidences of high strangeness that I'd like to look at. And so I mean, there's still more stuff, and that's what I told her. As more leads come on, then we have a reason to go down there again. It's not tomorrow I'm finally going to the Air Force Museum for the first time.
Ooh, enjoy that.
I felt bad that I didn't get to go before the Right Pat episode. But yeah, we're gonna go tomorrow, and it'll be hopefully fun. I mean, everybody says it's it's free, so how bad can it be, right?
Can I bring up one more news story from this week before I pass the baton? We had to talk about this because this is like the coolest fun. And it ties into what we were talking about last week with Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
The monolith that they found in Utah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second.
I definitely saw that.
Yeah, it was discovered by a helicopter pilot for the Department of Utah Public Safety while they were helping wildlife resource officers count bighorn sheep in the south portion of the state. And what they found was a 10 to 12 foot kind of triangle. You can't really tell it from the picture. From the picture, it just looks like a rectangle sticking out of the ground, but it's actually triangle shaped.
I was wondering that.
Yeah, 10 to 12 feet above the ground, and it looks to be built directly into the ground. So they don't quite know how deep it goes yet, or they haven't released that information. Initially, they were very hesitant to say where it was because it's in such a remote area.
Mm-hmm.
They were afraid that hikers might try to go and find it and then get lost, or they'd have issues. However, this might be all over the news by the time the podcast drops, but like as of a half hour ago, Twitter, the internet, as it do, researched this, and they went through Google Maps. Not only did they find it, but they found relatively the time period when it appeared, which was between 2015 and 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And yeah, they might have actually had it narrowed down just a wee bit more to the month or something. But they were able to find out.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying they were working on that. The last update I got is that they were working on that. The only issue they have is that the images that they have from the time period where it wasn't there, from the year before or whatever, 2013 or whatever, is that the picture was taken at a different time. So therefore, it still could have been there. It's just that because of the shadows, you can't really see. It's hidden.
Oh, yeah. So there's the internet's best and brightest are cracking this case right now. But for me, and they also, there's some people, I guess the prevailing theory now is that it might be a piece of art from this artist John McCracken, who lived in New Mexico, and kind of did similar type things, and they think it was like performance art or I don't know what you would call that shit.
Well, what locals there are saying is that, for people that don't know, that aren't in that area, is that apparently that's kind of a common thing, is to have these weird kind of obscure art exhibits in the middle of the desert. So it's not unheard of for that to happen. It just so happens to be, usually they claim it, or there's a signature of some sort or something. But the one thing that's really, everybody's really going wild about is that if you look at that picture there of it, when it's just kind of front facing, and you look at the rock to the left in the picture, everybody's saying it looks like specifically an alien face. Have you seen that yet? Yeah, if you look at it, they say it looks like an alien with its mouth open. So I thought that was cool.
Which species? There's over 2,500.
Probably a gray. It looks like it'd be more like some type of gray.
Yeah.
Probably tall gray because it's so big.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking at it now.
Are you looking at it? Yeah, that's what they say. It looks like an alien face. I don't know. I have no idea what that might be. I mean, what could it be? Is it? I bet it's Saddam's Stargate.
You keep going back to that. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why that was such a point of contention between us to where you feel the need to keep bringing it up. I think it's totally possible that, like, in the Middle East, they found a fucking Stargate. Of all the shit that's come out of your mouth, this is the most unbelievable fucking thing. Is that Saddam had his Stargate? Like, I don't know. I drink the tea on that one. I don't know. I'm sorry.
You buy that one? I
do.
That one's funny. I don't know. It just I'm not sure why it seems hilarious to me. It just does. I guess
I'm looking at the rocks and
I grew up in an age where like Saddam, like when I think of Saddam, I think of like Saddam from on South Park. He's just fucking maniacal. Right.
So because he's a homosexual, he couldn't have possibly mastered transdimensional travel, right? Is that it? Is that what it is?
Well, actually, I think it's because he's dead. It's because he's dead.
Right.
Wow.
He could totally be in charge of the Stargate if he was alive.
If he was an alive homosexual, okay.
Right.
I just want to make sure.
I mean, being or not being homosexual does not preclude him from being able to operate the Stargate. He just has to be alive.
I think that might be a prerequisite. Actually, I think you have to be homosexual to operate.
Oh, see, now there's the problem. That's why it never worked before.
So now it's all closed up in the middle of the desert,
waiting for some homosexual person to come and start it.
Yes. That's my logic. That's oh God. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I'm gonna get canceled. I guess if we were allowed to make rape jokes that one week, we're fine. Oh, but no, I don't know. I'm not sure what I think about it. I could buy that it's a piece of artwork, but then again, I guess if it is that, the guy died or whatever, and he just waited for someone to find it, and he just so happened to die before someone did. I mean,
that's to me, that's one of the things that's a little head scratching is that how, like, if it's that remote of an area, what's the likelihood that anyone would ever find it? Like, because I mean, if it's been sitting there 5 years, like that's a pretty long time.
Yeah. Right.
And I guess it's stainless steel, so it'll hold up.
Well, is that what they're saying? I don't know. Yeah, what are they saying that's made out of? Are they taking it and tested it? They're just leaving it there?
I don't think they've said a whole lot. There's like, once again, there's a bunch of articles written. Unfortunately, they all say pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say anything about samples taken or molecular composition. Now, in the video that's surfacing, you see like the person walk up to it and touch it almost immediately. So as far as like if you touch it, something is going to happen. And there's also the picture of the guys standing on top of each other's shoulders to look on the top of it. Yeah. Have you seen that?
Yeah. So like both standing there, they're both leaning against it.
Yeah, so clearly nothing hinky is going to happen if we make contact with it. That was established within the first 3 minutes. So that's good to know.
You think they might have gotten together and tried to push it over? Like, is it buried? Is it much bigger? Is it buried into the dirt? We don't even know that much.
Yeah, no, it is. And that was one of the things that they saw is 12 feet above ground.
Okay, well.
But this also made me think of, and not to get too much on a tangent, but I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah. It's in the middle of Georgia. It's written in 8 different languages. The dude's 6 or 8 commandments on how to have a successful community.
Right. I forget exactly what they say, but it's kind of like either how to avoid an environmental apocalypse or how to rebuild society after one, right? It's like,
right. You can only have 250,000 people per community.
Right.
Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones.
You've never heard of them?
No, I've never heard of this. This is new to me.
Holy shit! I think we should stop right now and just do a whole nother episode on that. That's,
right, just skip this old Bob Dobbs thing. We have a whole new thing.
Yeah, this is.
I mean, I can tell you about the Church of Subgenius whenever. These Georgia Guidestones. Well, they're also sitting there, and they'll be here next week. But
right, exactly.
I mean, that was the whole point of dude making them, was that they would survive the American stupidity of the Cold War or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
No, because weren't they built in the 70s? Like, they're not that old. Well, I guess, yeah, we were still in the Cold War in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. That was the point of it, was after civilization collapsed, the remnants of humanity would come around the stone and learn how to make a perfect society.
Do
and
we
it
know
didn't matter what language they spoke, because all the languages that are around Georgia, plus or minus a dozen, should still be there.
Do we know who made them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know off the top of my head, but
it wasn't like a mystery
dude.
person.
Well,
Yeah,
it wasn't. So you can correct me because you obviously know a lot about this too. My understanding was no one immediately claimed responsibility for them. However, they knew who owned the land, and then they were able to track like who hired the construction company to make them. Like it wasn't, it was like through that they found it was like paid for by a corporation. It was some local guy who I think was like probably like an evangelical Christian or something, who had a decent amount of money, and so they kind of were able to piece it together. But no one's ever come forward and said, I did this and this is why I did it. Although if you look at like the stones themselves, it's pretty self-explanatory. They're meant to be like from the New World,
right.
Are they big?
Yeah, pretty big. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm just going to throw a random number out there, but I'm pretty sure they're like 30 feet.
Oh, actually, yeah, I see them. Oh, no, you're right. It's like a huge thing. Wow.
Yeah, and they've got those rules written on all four sides of them, written in different languages, and I don't remember how many languages, but
8 modern languages.
8. Okay.
And a shorter message is inscribed at the top in the structure in 4 ancient languages.
Ooh,
so 12 altogether.
That's crazy. I'm going to look into this more. Well, if I had a bunch of money, I'd probably do some crazy stunt like that.
I totally would too. Fuck right. Yeah.
Like, it seems like a waste, but not really. Because I mean, gosh, one day the world is going to end. We're going to kill ourselves somehow, and when it does, we'll have those guide stones. So that's interesting. No, I never heard of that. But you think this is kind of similar to that?
Well, I mean, you could take it a step further and say, Stonehenge, men build monuments, for no reason. I guess not for no reason, but for their own reasons.
Well, yeah, there's one with the Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Yeah, but that's specific and that's pronounced, and that's, they know why they did that. But look at Easter Island or look at anything else. Like, It's something that I think we do. We build these monuments that are meant to last. And, what's the point of any of them? I don't know. Some men just do that,
Just guys.
I guess women do too. I'm not trying to be fucking sexist. I'm just saying.
I don't know of any women that have, but they probably do. They might. I don't know. Well, maybe we should do a whole episode on like ancient monuments and like Stonehenge and, the Eastern Island head things. And
right.
I think
Leaning Tower of Pisa and all that.
Yeah, I think, then just kind of go over, why and what, and maybe we can talk about the pyramid some. I think that'd be fun.
It's men channeling their inadequacy because they can't create life, so they have to build piles of rocks that will outlast them. Women just have kids and are fucking like whatever. Men have to
deep-rooted misogyny.
I don't know. No, that's not misogynist. If it is, it's not on my radar as being misogynist. But
toxic masculinity.
Now you're just saying words.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, I'm done. I'm done.
Using some words. All right.
I'm muting myself.
That's fine. Are you gonna mute yourself?
No, I just meant I was gonna let our guest go now. I'm tapping out.
Take a time out. Yeah, let's get into the topic of this week, which I'm pretty excited about because word has gotten out that we were talking about the Church of the Subgenius this week, and I've had multiple people reach out to me and talk about how excited they are for this episode, and I had no idea it was this big of a thing.
Well, yeah,
it's a documentary on Amazon.
Yeah, and actually that just came out. Is written by Sandy K. Boone. She is the wife of one of our previous members. He's since passed, but she kind of did. Excuse me. She decided that in his honor and in the honor of our glorious church, that she'd kind of that's actually the pulling the veil back on the actual church and our preachings.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Maybe that's why it's gotten so big. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, maybe it's because gosh, if there's something to it, But yes, people are they're excited to hear about all this. So Go ahead and I guess start with the basics, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, okay, then how about I start like this? How much, Ashers and Pat, how much would you guys pay for eternal salvation?
Well, probably, I mean, infinite money.
Oh, it's infinite money. Well, $10,000 would be a pretty easy way of getting into paying your way into eternal salvation.
I think that would be a good number. Yeah, I would pay that much realistically.
And we wouldn't ask you to pay that much to
Oh.
get into Church of the Subgenius, to get your eternal salvation. It wouldn't cost you $500
Oh.
to get your eternal salvation. Really, all you need is $35, and that gets you eternal salvation or triple your money back.
Oh, that's a hard choice.
Yes. See, the thing is our guru, J.R. Bob Dobbs, one day back in the late 50s, was putting together his own television set when he accidentally electrocuted himself and then started hearing voices from beyond the stars telling him how to stop the actual conspiracy from destroying our Slack.
Okay.
And Slack is that thing that everybody has, but the conspiracy is always trying to take away from you, and you can't tell anyone what their Slack is. And the conspiracy can't tell you what Slack is. They can tell you what false Slack is, but it's just trash. It's just not the same. It's whatever makes you get up in the morning. It's that beautiful thing. And for some people, maybe, yeah, it's smoking pot and hanging out in their boxers, but it's just whatever you need it to be. And J.R. Bob Dobbs can give you that. He can show you the path to eternal Slack until, of course, July 5th, 1998, when the world will come to an end.
Oh. Yeah. So we have to wait for the next cycle of 1998 for that to happen?
Well, see, okay, the thing is one of the cooler things about the Church of the Subgenius is we have the ability to teach you how to use time control as a method of gaining back the slack that the conspiracy is trying to take from you. So it's a way to help you brash through this terrible conspiracy of normal people and get what you rightly deserve, which is your slack and eternal salvation.
So as it stands right now, because I have not paid my $35, right now I don't have that eternal salvation, but I can travel back through time and gain it still. I can get my slack back.
For sure.
Is that how this works?
Like I said, all you would really need to do is go to our website, www.subgenius.com, and up there, it's a really hard site to navigate, but if you can figure it out, we have the little an ordainment kit for $35. You send us the money, we send you the kit. You're actually legally able to perform weddings in a certain number of states.
Oh.
And you get the eternal salvation or triple your money back. And when X Day does come a-comin' on July 5th, 1998, you will be ruptured up by your wallet or purse or whatever you carry your money around in into your own pleasure saucer, where your very own sex deity will take care of you until we fly ourselves away to Planet X. And that is what we get. After we've done this, the pinks and the conspiracy dupes and all of those terrible people who we left behind on Earth, we're going to terraform the Earth back to its beautiful, beautiful primordial state with our ultra mega killdozers, TM. And we're going to bring the Earth back to its primordial state, and J.R. Bob Dobbs is going to sell the Earth to the Exists, and that's how we're going to get our eternal salvation.
On another planet.
At which point, if you're not satisfied, then you can come at us with your legal representation for your $105 back.
That's fair. That's fair. Do I get I have to provide my own legal representation, or?
Well, if you're trying to get the $105 back, yes. But I mean, I'm pretty sure you will be entirely satisfied with your eternal salvation. We haven't had anyone even try to really get their money back.
Well, that's why you have the guarantee. I mean, you can't.
Exactly.
It's because you guarantee that it's satisfying.
Eternally satisfying, as a matter of fact.
So, okay. So, I've heard that this is all tied to every conspiracy, everyone.
Yes, as a matter of fact. See, J.R. Bob Dobbs, when he electrocuted himself in 1954, and he heard the men from Planet, or wait, maybe it was the old God Yahweh. I don't remember. Anyway, when he got his pre-scriptures and everything in his brain, lightninged into his brain back then, he was told that it's not just one conspiracy or two conspiracies. It's an entire global network of conspiracies. And the issue is actually that they're so dumb, they work in perfect harmony to steal our slack from us, the beautiful Yatinson peoples, the subgeniuses of the world.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So they put out these conspiracies for us to eat up.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
And then those conspiracies pull the wool over your eyes about the real conspiracy and keep you from knowing the truth, which is you just need your slack. Yeah. And you just need to let all of that stupid conspiracy stuff go, because like I said, come X day, those conspiracy dupes, they'll get what's coming to them.
And what's the punishment? Do we know what the punishment is?
The what?
What's the punishment to the dupes?
Oh, well, they're going to be on Earth when the Ultra Mega Killdozers, TM, re-terraform everything. They're part of everything that gets re-terraformed.
And I guess they don't get a chance to triple their money, so joke's on them, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, they think they're doing great because they're not spending that $35, which, like I said, one-time payment, $35. They think they're pulling one over on old Bob. But when the killdozers come a running, that's when they'll realize that they should have paid their dues like the rest of us did.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for the price of, gosh, for a family dinner, for a nice family dinner out of two, you can have
$1.03 a day every day for 1 month, and you're actually got a little bit of extra, almost enough to get a piece of bubble gum.
Yeah, well, that's pretty nice. No, I've heard that. That Dobbs is dead. Is that correct?
Yes, as a matter of fact, he was assassinated by one of his fellows. This was back in 1998, I believe. There was a devival in San Francisco, and that's where obviously our people come together to make the music of our church. There's acu beatings and laying on of hands where you're supposed to, not inappropriate laying on of hands. But and towards the end, our guru actually came out on stage to address the people, but before he had his chance, he was literally shot point blank range. It was a terrible, terrible day, but it turns out he had put insurance at the venue, and as such, he made $1 million on his own death that day.
Wow, that's smart.
Yes. See, J.R. Bob Dobbs, he loves to ride the luck plane, as it were. It's like almost like skateboarding through the alligator infested waters and never getting bit.
Yeah.
That is the essence of what Bob is to us.
Okay. Wow. All right. Would you say he's the ultimate embodiment of slack?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I would. And many reverends before me have also said the exact same thing. J.R. Bob Dobbs is, without understanding, the highest and most slackful being that any subgenius could ever hope to attain.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to think of what else we need to know about this. I know a lot of people are just very interested in what it's about, and that seems to be, I guess, the gist of what it's about. Do you have any set rules aside from, of course, the small
Well,
payment?
of course, yeah. As with all major cults, we have our own set of rules. The first and most important is you're probably going to need to bleep this in editing, but fuck them if they can't take a joke.
Oh well,
That's
yeah.
our very first rule, and it's the most important rule.
Well,
And
I've seen that. I've seen that phrase at a lot of places. A lot of people use it on the internet and stuff. Do you think that they're also a part of your group?
oh, probably. I mean, see, the thing about being a subgenius is that anyone can be a subgenius.
Yeah.
It's just only the people who really have that pure Yeti blood within them are subgenius-y enough to send their $35.
Yeah. 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 That's true. That's true. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's rule number one. Is that the only rule, or is there?
Well, another important rule is you have to keep your faith in Bob, and that's real easy. We just keep it as an acronym. You got to have the FIB, the
Oh
faith
yeah.
in Bob.
Okay.
And as long as you've got the faith, when July 5th, 1998 comes, you'll have your pleasure saucer, just like everyone else who's paid their $35.
I love that. Just the the pleasure saucer is worth $35. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, by itself. And I mean, these pleasure saucers, these aren't like Kang and Odo from The Simpsons, not one of those small saucers. I mean, we're talking like however big you want it to be. Do you want it to be a small little tiny saucer? Cool, that's fine. But would you like your saucer to be large enough to, let's say, enclose the Grand Canyon?
Oh,
You know, definitely could have one that big. I mean, how big do you want it to be?
wow. Okay. That's okay. All right. So Faith and Bob. What else? What else do we got for the rules?
Well, see, another one of the fun parts about the religion is that any reverend who spouts, and say the sacred spouting is literally anyone who, like myself at this exact moment, is preaching out to the world. Anyone who is doing their official spouting as part of the church, the moment something comes out of their mouth, it's canon,
Oh,
even and especially if it's contradictory to something else that you might have heard.
okay. I like that rule. That makes a lot of sense,
Very
actually.
important, very important rule. Um, Jello wrestling is only upon request, and um, we like monster movies
Oh, great.
because
Perfect.
who doesn't like monster movies?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that makes and it's 100% accurate because you said it is.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
And if you don't think that's true, you just have to pay your $35, get on the radio waves, and tell the people that that's not the truth.
Something else.
Yeah.
That sounds perfect. I mean, my gosh, who wouldn't want to be in a, well, I guess, so you called it a cult. I was dancing around the word. I didn't want to say it, but is that acceptable?
Well, I mean, the thing is if you get hung up on the word, then maybe we won't say cult. If you want, we can just call it a church. But if you're not worried about it, go ahead, call it a cult.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess you said it was a cult, so therefore it's now canon. So it's a cult.
Well, it is like I said, until someone
Until
else says
someone
that
else
it isn't.
says that it
Because
is.
it is, and then it also isn't, because I'm pretty sure someone else has said that it isn't.
Oh,
But
okay.
if I'm wrong, now they have.
Yeah, so now it's like a constant challenge. You're like constantly challenging each other, and that's healthy. You need a good, healthy bit of challenge in your life.
Indeed.
I think that probably contributes to your slack. That makes a lot of sense. Are there more rules? Are those the most important? Do we have
No, I
others?
mean, okay, another very important rule is that no two subgeniuses are allowed to be exactly alike. If we ever found two subgeniuses that were exactly the same, we would have to murder one, or one of the two of them would have to pick up a new hobby. I mean, whichever works, you know.
Well,
I'm
sure,
not
they're gonna
we're,
change
we're
your
we're not too big on the whole murdering people just because. I mean, we'll do plenty of it on July 5th. So, if we don't
mind.
have to now,
True. Oh, that's okay. Wow. Okay. Well, before I get into how this, because I am curious as to how this has affected you personally, in your day-to-day life. Pat, do you have any other questions about the actual belief system or anything like that? Pat's been quiet.
I've been standing out of the way.
Pat's over there
You know what I
jacking
mean?
off. I'm just
No.
Pat's like,
I would have left my mic on if that was the case. No, I'm good.
Oh my gosh.
You sure you don't have any questions about the sex goddesses or the pleasure saucers?
Oh yeah, that's good.
No, I don't think so.
Pat, would you pay $35? So far, are you sold yet, or?
I don't. Do I have to do this in character? Like, how do we do this?
Well, and I mean, look. Here's the thing. Here's that $35 for eternal salvation. It's not just eternal salvation. It's not just a pleasure saucer and your very own sex goddess. When we get your money, we will actually also send you a little a black folder that's got your very own card that you can write your name in, your Church of the Subgenius card. You'll be an official card-carrying member. You get the all-inclusive excuse, which is a beautiful thing. J.R. Bob Dobbs, he's not going to pay for your sins. You're going to pay for your own sins. As a matter of fact, if Bob is going to do anything for you, he's going to give you an excuse to get out of your sins, the all-purpose excuse. And then you also get there's a button, a cloisonne pin, and a bumper sticker, and pamphlets number 1 and 2, so you can get your friends involved in the cult. Oh man, you get so much for that $35. It is just amazing.
And what the $35 represents is the plenary indulgences that the Catholic Church sold back hundreds of years ago. So how it worked was that you could go to them and say, I did all these terrible things, and if you could make a large enough monetary donation, then the priest would forgive you, which obviously led to, was classist, because the people with spare money that could actually conceive donating to the church were the people that could and act the worst then and just buy their way out of it. I mean, like, I get this. Like, the whole thing is like, it shows like the ridiculous. Like, if you were to take any part of what he just said and try to point it out as being ridiculous, you could circle back and pick any of the 7 major world religions and find all types of correlations between the two. That's the point of all this, right? Is that like you're listening, like the people at home, like you're listening to what he's saying and you're thinking like, this sounds fucking outrageous. It's really not. It's kind of it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, kind of like with Weird Al, where like you're inflating certain aspects, but the spirit of the Church of the Subgenius and their doctrine and their dogma is not any more or less ridiculous, although it's kind of played for laughs. And I don't mean that to offend you, but I mean, like, if it comes across as being like played for laughs, it's because it's trying to hold a mirror up to other organized religions and say, well, this is really what we're taking it like a step or two further, but this is what you guys really look like. And I would debate that a little bit, but we'll get till the end of it, because I don't want to.
Oh, okay. I mean, you seem to understand the concept of keeping the faith in Bob.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it pretty well. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, Mike's going back off.
Okay. All right. Well, as a member, how many people do you think that you've converted?
Oh, personally?
Yeah.
I mean, my church is very small. And the thing is once you've become a minister, or excuse me, a reverend in the church or a doctor in the church, we're no longer really preaching to you, because just like Bob, we don't preach to the choir. We don't preach to the saved. They already know. They paid their $35. They've got their pleasure saucers. They don't have to worry about it. So we're trying to preach. Yeah. So the issue I've run into is everyone who's come into my congregation has actually gone on and paid their $35. Currently, my congregation is 3. And unfortunately, 2 of those are my cats.
Oh, well.
But like I said, I have had 7 or 8 people in the cult, or excuse me, in my personal church, and they've all gone and paid their $35 dues. And as a matter of fact, you even know some of them.
Oh, I probably do. So yeah, that is another thing I'd like to mention, that is that we know each other. We are real life friends,
That's
and
true.
have the same social circle. And that is one thing people always mention. They're like, "Oh, he's in a cult. He's in a cult," and that was kind
The
of
funniest cult you've ever heard of.
the best cult I've ever heard of. Let's be honest. But yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, he's in a cult." And I, and so of course, naturally that got me curious. And then you approached me one day and just was like, "Hey, look at this. If you want some weird stuff, look at this."
Well, you had been, yeah, you'd said something both through your social media accounts and on your show here that you were looking for people to talk to, and you'd done the episode on cults with Ivy, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
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 And so I figured, well, you guys got a bunch of the really big ones. However, I thought you'd probably like to know a little bit about this one that happens to have some pretty big names involved with it. And I don't know if I can say these names out loud, but
You can actually,
allegedly,
yes.
allegedly, I have heard that people like Matt Groening from The Simpsons fame
Yeah.
is allegedly a member of our church.
No.
I've heard at least 50% of the original members of Devo have paid their $35 dues.
Yeah.
Paul Rubens allegedly has paid his money, although I'm not nearly so sure as that about that as I am with some of the others. R. Crumb actually did a piece. He's got Bob Dobbs heads in some of his underground comics.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So this is, well, that's what I'm finding out, is that this is a lot bigger than I even knew it was. Actually, it sounds like we probably should have talked about this sooner, but I had no idea. And that is the thing about it. You're right. People don't really, you guys don't really, you're not knocking on people's doors asking for their $35 to give them their,
well, because most people wouldn't really, accept that. I mean, if I walked up to anyone's house, knocked on the door, said, "Have you heard the good news about Bob?" Most of them, well, depending on where we're at, would slam the door in my face or, pull a gun out and go, "Oh God, it's a stalker," or something. I don't know. But
like, why? What do you know about Bob?
Right? What do you know about Bob? But the thing is we don't want everybody. We couldn't take everybody even if we wanted them.
Right.
Most people when they hear the word of Bob, they just think it's some kind of strange joke, or worse, it's entirely serious. And there is no correct way of explaining the word to someone who just can't hear it,
Yeah. That's very true. Well, that makes a lot of sense, actually. That does make a lot of sense. It's definitely not as invasive, but, I guess that's the thing about it, is that, at the end of the day, it sells itself. It really does. Because
right. And, see, the thing is, as I said, the conspiracy is trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Right. The thing is with the Church of the Subgenius, we know that the conspiracy's out there, but we've just given them back their wool. We've taken our own wool and we've pulled the wool over our own eyes. Yeah. See, there's two things about it. Number one, it's your wool. And number two, because it's your wool, it's just the right amount of fluffy.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, let's go back. So, because there's, the conspiracy, for the conspiracies, let's pull up a conspiracy as an example. Let's go back to the Saddam Stargate. Let's bring it back there. So it's the conspiracy. The real conspiracy is that Saddam does not have a Stargate. Then is that what?
Well, no, actually, the real the conspiracy, so far as Bob is concerned, is that actually, just like we posited earlier, unfortunately, because Saddam Hussein is in fact dead, he is no longer able to make that Stargate work. The thing is we have to wait until the fifth generation of Husseins come back into power, and then they'll have access to that Stargate again, at which point they'll be able to speak with the Illuminati through the power of, I don't know, probably gambling, because that's how they talk to each other these days, via stock markets. And once that occurs, then they can bring it back around and then conspire to sell us cheap trinkets from beyond the stars that we just absolutely don't want or need.
But we'll buy.
But we'll definitely buy because that's what Hollywood and the mainstream media are pushing it. Right.
That makes a lot of sense. It does. Well, could they possibly try to use that Stargate to leave the Earth because they're getting, they didn't pay
No, see, the thing is that the conspiracy is too dumb to come up with something as evil and nefarious as that. Their plots are always just so muddled and ridiculous. It's almost as if someone was coming up with them by looking at things in the different corners of their room and just freeform coming up with the ideas off the top of their head.
That makes sense. Well, that's probably what they're doing. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
That's got to be what they're doing. And that makes sense because then everybody else is going to overthink it, and they're going to be like, "Oh, it can't just be that. It's not that easy." That makes sense.
Right. And that's the issue. Is most people who are into conspiracy theories, they see the web, and they think that there's some grand designer, but really, the grand design is just being cooked up by some cracked out spider who doesn't know what day it is.
Yeah, true. That's true.
A real spatial moon trap, if you were.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Wow. I didn't realize it was all that simple. I mean, my gosh, I've been doing this for a while and I didn't know. I didn't know that I just needed to get my slack. Maybe that's what I'm lacking. Maybe that's why I'm searching for all the world's mysteries. I don't
know. And see, the thing is for you, it does seem like your slack is sifting through the bullshit of the conspiracy, which is why I think you personally would probably be a wonderful candidate to join the church. Like I said, $35, a simple investment, and you could be one of ours. You could do perform weddings live on the show here, and then after that, you'll have so much more information from the different members of the group if you're willing to talk to those creeps. And you'll be able to find out more about these different conspiracies and how they're drunkenly woven together.
That's true. I could help further myself, but at the same time, I already have my pleasure craft, so I'm set.
Right.
That's a good point. Wow. Okay. All right then. So going back to, I guess we were talking about personal life, and we were talking about some of the folks that have been sold on it and things like that. So it's not, I know how you talk about it, and it's just a very casual approach. Do you find that most people often come to you about it, or do you feel like you do have to sell it a little in order to get people in?
Well, I have to sell it when the people just don't understand.
Right.
And if I'm really if I'm really out there trying to sell it, sometimes I just don't even know if I'm preaching to the right person, because you're right. The people who need to know the message, the people who need to get their slack back, who are willing to pay that $35, they'll practically walk up and slap you in the face with the money themselves, without even understanding that they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's very true. That's very true. Well, that's a good point. Wow. Okay. All right. So we'll get back to, because I know there's all kinds of there's lots of there's not stories, I guess, but there's lots of lore. There's a lot more to it than that. Like there's, Dobbs was married. Is that correct? He had a wife?
Yes. Beautiful Connie Dobbs.
Yeah. Is she still around?
First and most ballinest and banginest wife of J.R. Bob Dobbs.
Oh, first wife.
Connie. Yes, first and most banginest.
Okay.
You see, because he's so stupid, Dobbs could never attain monogamy. He's just too dumb to be monogamous.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people would aren't monogamous by choice. Others, like Bob, are just too stupid to be monogamous. Some people are are beyond that celibate, but that's once again to each their own. But anyway, Connie is the first, and as I said, bangingest wife of J.R. Bob Dobbs. She actually is the guide to the uber femmes of the Church of the Subgenius. Any of those women who just come into the church and realize that they are just above and beyond everything that this mostly stupid sausage party has to say to them. They really just take in that can do and can't give a fuck about what you are doing attitude of Connie and bring that out into the world. And that is their slackful way of showing her the due that she is that she is due that she is due.
Yes.
But yes, and she is obviously does her part to help keep Bob in line. Sometimes he does try selling ice to the fire people of the From Beyond the Stars. And the thing about selling ice to people who are on fire all the time is that either the ice melts and steams away, or it melts and then you're killing the people you're trying to sell the ice to.
Yeah.
So she keeps him in line when he does the less intelligent business. Right. The dumber stuff.
Okay. And then, so why is she the first wife? What are the other wives?
Well, the thing is Bob Dobbs has had so many wives because he's a salesman, a traveling salesman.
Yeah.
The thing about a traveling salesman is he's probably got a wife in every one of his major cities that he works.
Sure.
And I mean, he's sold everything. As I said, he sold everything from TVs to ice cubes. He sold bubble gum in Omaha, and he sold insurance documents to the grand people of India, which is actually where he brought together a few people and made his own town. After getting all the profits from his insurance scam, he purchased a plot of in Malaysia called Dobbstown, and that is where our secret scribes and our young initiates go to learn the ancient ways, if they're willing to go beyond the $35, of course.
Oh, that costs more.
Well, no, I mean, how much is a ticket to Malaysia? How much is the cost of snacks from here to Malaysia?
Well, that makes sense. Yes, okay.
Yeah, and then obviously you pretty much just give away all the rest of your money to the church at that point, because now you're living in Malaysia, learning the ancient secrets.
Well, sure, you don't need it at that point.
Yes, because at that point you'll be getting the forbidden sciences. You'll be earning your doctorate spelled with an extra K.
Oh, yeah. Wow. that makes a lot of sense. That does. Yeah, I've heard about this Dobbstown. So once you go, can you leave, or you just decide not to?
Well, I mean, you certainly could if you wanted to, but why would you leave? I mean, it is Dobbstown, Malaysia is the most slackful area on earth outside of Glen Rose, Texas, where our current sacred scribe Ivan Stang holds court. As I said, it's Dobbstown, Malaysia. It's the most sacred place on earth. Once you get there, the slack literally radiates from the ground, and you practically learn these things through osmosis. And I mean, practically bash your head into any rock in Dobbstown, Malaysia, and you'll learn another secret of the church.
That makes sense.
Another way to put the conspiracy back in its place so that it's not harming the rest of our weird kind.
Sure. That, like I said, that makes perfect sense. Well, okay, all right. I'm trying to think of if I have any more questions.
How were you introduced to the church?
So when I was just a young boy, I was playing a game of what was it? Magic the Gathering. I don't know why it was so hard for me to remember that card game.
Pat knows about that.
Anyway, we were playing this card game, Magic the Gathering, down in the basement of a Knights of Columbus building. And all of a sudden, this strange looking idiot with a pipe sticking out of his face and a tweed jacket just comes marching in the door like he knows everybody who's there, but doesn't. He just grins crazily at everybody, walks slowly through our group of sweaty nerds as we were sitting there playing our card game, walks over to the big screen TV, shoves a cassette into the VCR, presses play, and then he turns around, is told immediately that he must leave because he's been smoking this pipe the whole time, and he walks off. Now that tape happened to be one of the recruitment videos, one that you can actually find on YouTube right now via Ivan Stang's YouTube page, which we'll put links up for that a little later.
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, the Subgenius recruitment video burned something into my skull on that day, and I realized that I was just meant for so much more in this world. I was meant for at least $35 and a couple of gaffes on a podcast 10 or 15 years down the line. Sure. But the thing was that wasn't the day when I actually really came into the church. I was too young. I didn't understand. I heard the message, but I didn't understand it. It wasn't until much later when I actually saw some Subgenius post in one of my web pages on the Facebooks. And I realized, I think I've heard of this before. And I went to the web page, the www.subgenius.com, and it was this terrible, terrible web page that looked like it was done in the early to mid 90s. Yeah. And it was very hard to traverse, but I eventually wandered around enough, and I found the page that had the totally forgot. But and that was the day I paid my $35. Done.
Great story.
Sorry. Kind of trailed off there at the end, but saved it.
That was nice. That was beautifully done.
Thank you.
That was good. That was a good question. I can't think of any. Do you have any other? Yeah. Do you have any other insightful questions to ask here before we get into kind of more? Because I want to talk about your article and stuff that you wrote that this kind of all pertains to.
My article?
Pat's article.
Oh, Pat's article.
I don't know where Pat went. I guess he's.
I'm right. No, I'm right here.
Oh, okay.
I'm just.
He's back.
Clearing the dance floor, letting him work. No, I mean, I think I'm good.
So yeah, so Pat, you shared something that you had written previously about kind of this concept that you were talking about earlier. Which we should definitely, get into and touch on. I didn't read what your article yet because I don't know, I'm a bad person.
Right. That's all right. No one else did. It's fine.
No, we'll put it out there again.
No. So I used to have a column. There was this, the podcast still exists. It was called Grimerica, and it was based out of Canada, and it was kind of like what we do or Coast to Coast or Joe Rogan or anything back in the day. And they had a website, and they had a couple bloggers that would write columns and stuff, and I was one of them. One of the things that I had, one of the columns I had written back in the day, it was about kind of modern religion. And where that came from is I was on Midnights for a very long time, and I did a lot of reading. One of the things that I did, and then I practiced, I'm still kind of doing to this day, is I had an app on my phone. It was a Bible app, and every day it would give you, like, it would crap out like a portion of the Bible to read, and if you read it every day, then over the course of the year you read the entire Bible. And I was doing it for the first time that year. And I kind of, a lot of the guys that wrote for this website would do book reviews or movie reviews. So I did a book review of the Bible. And at the time I was like 87% through. So the title of the article was, I've read 87% of the Bible. Here are my thoughts on it. And, how the whole thing got, how I started the article off was with this fictional story, but maybe it's not fictional or whatever, where L. Ron Hubbard and Anthony LaVey were in San Francisco at the same time. So I have the two of them meeting at a bar. They're both struggling writers, right? Well, if you ask anybody what the best-selling book of all time is, it's the Bible. Right. So if you're a struggling writer and you're trying to come up with a book that sells, at some point, if you have half a brain, you're going to look at that and you're going to say, well, this is where I want to be. I want to be a successful writer. The highest best-selling book of all time is a religious text. It's a cult, right? And maybe if I created my own, then we can sell books. So then Anthony LaVey goes off and he writes a Satanic Bible. And, L. Ron Hubbard goes off and writes Scientology, and they have a competition to see who can sell the most copies. And that's a fictional story. It's not true, but it kind of illustrates the point that, like, a lot of these religions can kind of just be pulled out of thin air as an attempt to make money, right? And but dovetailing that back to Christianity, I'm kind of going all over the place. I wish you didn't bring up that fucking article. I think, but there's something to be said about, the ridiculousness of blind belief. There's something to be said about people trying to solve all their problems by donating money to this ridiculous sales spiel that give me X amount of dollars and we promise you eternal salvation. That's ridiculous. And what does it say about someone that makes that claim? What does it say about someone that accepts that claim and then thinks that all they have to do is give $35 or however much money?
And they get a contract.
Yeah, exactly. And, it speaks a lot about the nature of human belief and how we're kind of all really drawn to the surface concept of salvation and divinity, but we don't really give it enough thought to realize how ridiculous most of it sounds.
Right. Well, yeah, you were saying earlier, which I kind of think is the beautiful thing about the Church of the Subgenius is that, you're free to believe, especially in America, to believe what you want to believe. And, you could definitely buy into this belief system, and this is what you follow and this is what you do. And, like you were saying earlier, is it really any more ridiculous than anything else that's out there that we have, set up as a religion to follow? No, not really. It's really not.
Well, so my criticism of the Bible, which I was in the process of reading at the time, was just that it wasn't even a criticism about the text as much as it was people's perception of it. I think if you go and try to treat that as a history book or a literal document, I think you're looking for fucking trouble, right? And people that do that are very off kilter, and that's why a lot of people have crises of faith, is because they start to connect the dots and realize the Earth isn't 8,000 years old, which is something we've talked about on this show before.
Yeah.
But I think you don't need to necessarily drink the Kool-Aid and go down that road all the way. I don't think the Bible has to be literal for there to be value in it. And I think if you look at the impact it has over just to our civilization over the course of humanity, especially the Old Testament alone, I mean, like nothing else has influenced mankind's cultural development as much as that book. Right. And to say that there's absolutely no value or no worth in it, I think history's already proven that not to be true. Whether or not it was divinely inspired, okay, we can argue that, but the thing is, we'll never know, or we'll never have definitive proof. As far as I know, we could have. But I think that there's a difference between, the Judaic religions, the Old Testament things that were based on the Old Testament, Judaism, Christianity, Muslimism, or whatever. And if you look at those and then say, okay, well, all this is based on this ancient text, and okay, it's kind of a laugh, and there's this ridiculous shit in there, but you can't really compare that to Scientology and say, well, they're both religions, because they're not. Right, like one of them is survived for a very long time and is still something that inspires people, and the other has been come up with in the past 30 years as a way to get people to fucking clean his boat. You know what I mean? Or like to sell fucking books.
Yeah, but isn't that what Christianity started off as? Just a way to get some type of control over people?
I don't. Well, I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, we talk about to scroll it back, and we'll just talk about the Old Testament, because at that point it splinters off and everything else. But was that book created as a way to control people? Well, I mean, I think definitely it gave guidelines for living in a time when, life, the preservance of life was very dubious. People had problems kind of structuring society. And that's why there's so many dietary rules in there that people kind of poke at fun at and shit. And like, it says that, it doesn't let you eat shellfish. That's a sin. You had fucking a bunch of Jews wandering around in the fucking desert and they were trying to say, don't eat this, don't eat that, quit fucking each other's wives. It was about survival more than anything. And, but I don't think that was necessarily like nefariously created to try to like entrap people. But that whole thing, that whole aspect of the Church of the Subgenius, I mean, that goes back to Gnostic Christianity, which is something that's completely different. But this concept of the creator as, the way that most people look at the creation story is that, God was a creator. He was a merciful figure. And he is a force of structure and benevolence, and he's a light that casts, out the darkness of the chaos, right? And what some religions do is they really flip that, and they say, no, that, this earthly realm that we're in is the prison.
Right.
And that it's the chaos that's the good force. And it's being controlled and we're being trapped in this body in this plane. And that when we break free and when chaos reigns or when all this stuff happens, that's the good thing, right? And I probably didn't articulate that right, but thank you for agreeing with me because it gave me. But you know what I'm trying to say? That's
in my head. I'm trying to tie it back to this, and so with the Church of the Subgenius, you kind of mentioned how like when things are with the Bible were created, it's kind of more of like a survival. Well, wouldn't this be the same thing then? Because it's about instead of having like all these conspiracies that you really don't have a definitive answer to, you have one big conspiracy that would explain all of those. So it would be not exactly survival, but for sake of sanity. And then on top of that, you do also have a gain in it, and that gain being your slack. And so, with that, it's just kind of saying to kind of be and
I don't shit on anybody's beliefs ever. That's a fucking very basic rule of thumb for me. I don't know what the fuck is going on. How am I going to criticize someone else that thinks they know what's going on?
Well, yeah.
I'm just very protective of people that I think have that angry 15-year-old mentality about them still, and like to say edgy things like fuck Christians. You know what I mean? That I think is very narrow-minded and it's very short-sighted. And I just think that people that, and I'm not saying that anyone here does that.
No, and honestly, no. The thing is about the Church of the Subgenius is it can actually act as kind of like an addition to whichever religion you're currently practicing. You do not need to lose your faith in whatever it was you were believing in just to join our group. I mean, it's long been said that Jesus and Bob were old fishing buddies. So I mean, if you like what you have in your Judeo Christianic type beliefs, and you just want to sprinkle a little bit of that Bob on top, we got no problem with that, just so long as you pay your $35.
Something that popped in my mind right now, which I don't think we ever talked about on the show, is that my entire well, not my entire, but a good portion of my path towards the esoteric, or the left-handed path, if you will, came from a trip to Ohio when I was in high school. My buddy, my best friend moved to Parma, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland, to play hockey for the Cleveland Barons. Okay. And we went with to drop him off. And when we were staying in the hotel room, I was just looking around the hotel, and in the drawer of the dresser at the hotel was a copy of the Book of Mormon. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, look at this. There's a Book of Mormon here. And my buddy's family, they were all Jewish. And his dad was like, take it. And I'm like, what? I could just take this? And he's like, yeah. He's like, that's why they put it there. They want you to take it. And I'm like, really? And I don't even know if that's necessarily true, but I took it anyway. And I went home and I read it. because I had heard of the Book of Mormon. I'd seen the commercials, and this was before the play or anything.
Right.
But I didn't really know anything about it. So everyone was like, "Why do you have a Book of Mormon?" Like, and I'd be like, "Oh, because I'm reading it, dude. Like, don't you read on different religions?" I went to Catholic school for so long that it was just like you read the Bible like it was no big deal.
Right.
But like, to explore different faiths and stuff. So that was it. I got the Book of Mormon, and then after that, I probably picked up the Gosha and fucking it all went downhill from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I feel that's something, I mentioned that reading the Bible in the course of the year, but then the next year I read the Quran, and I read that whole thing from front to back.
Yeah.
And like, that's just something that I like to do, is I like to actually read these texts, and like, I've read the Apocrypha, all this stuff. And to really put the time in and look at, it's nothing I'd ever want to go to school for, but kind of exploring the different religions and the basis of faith, because you're right, mankind has never seen a more powerful motivating force for change, both good and bad, than a system of beliefs,
right?
Religious beliefs.
Well, so before because I keep forgetting, because you keep mentioning it and I keep forgetting. So with the Church of the Subgenius, is there a book? Is there a text, or is it the website? The website is the book.
Well, no, actually, yes. There is a book that we still to this day put out, and it's actually, I believe, in its 30th year of printing. I'm sure someone will definitely wring my neck for being wrong about that, but it is called The Church of the Subgenius, written by the Subgenius Foundation, and that can be found also on the website or through Amazon.com, I believe. But just The Church of the Subgenius.
Now,
The Book of the Subgenius.
Oh, the Book of this. Okay. Now, if you purchase the book, does that money that you use to purchase the book go towards your $35, or that's just separate? That's a separate thing.
That'd be a separate thing.
Oh.
Yeah. If you want to actually get the word of Bob as written by our sacred scribes like Ivan Stang and Dr. Philo Drummond, then you would need to shell out the $14.95 plus or minus for whatever that is.
Sure.
I mean, you'll have to check your prices online. They may vary from state to state.
And if I may just interject real quick, anyone, as far as you keep referring to the website as being terrible, anyone that thinks this website is terrible was not in a band in the late 90s and had to make their own GeoCity site, because this is not that fucking bad. I mean, it's worth a look.
Well, it certainly is not optimized for mobile browsing. We'll put it like that.
Oh, okay. If you go on, it looks okay on Firefox.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely looks a little dated, but anyone that's seen a punk rock band's GeoCities website from the late 90s has definitely seen something a million times worse. This isn't that bad.
Well, I mean, that's pretty terrible by today's standards. I pulled it up real quick. I'm on here. Oh, that's okay. Well, good. There is a book, so that's good. But the book it's not necessary. But if you'd like to learn more, whatever is fit for your Slack, I take it.
Indeed. Or actually, if you would like to know more, you could send a self-addressed stamped envelope to, get your pens ready, kids, P.O. Box 807, Glen Rose, Texas 76043 for more information about the Church of the Subgenius.
I'm going to do this. Have you done this? Have
what?
You
sent my
yourself
sent the letters? Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
And see, the thing is actually there are actually other ways to get your Slack from the world. There is the Hour of Slack, which is our Ivan Stang's podcast, or well, it's actually a radio show that he does on college radio.
Okay.
And he also puts it out on the internet, I believe, every Sunday night. And then we have a bunch of other podcasters and other internet people who do shows themselves. Most of those you can find at www.freethinkradio.com. You'll have, let's see here, Dr. Howland Dowell does Ask Dr. Howell. Reverend Susie the Floozy has the Slack Time Funhouse. I believe Dr. Philo Drummond also has a show, and you'll also get reruns from Hour of Slack through that webpage as well. If you couldn't find it elsewhere.
Yeah, lots of information. Oh, definitely. I'll put all the links in the description here. I'll have you send me all these links over, and we'll put them in the description.
Excellent.
That way, if you guys want to if you want to dive more into it and check it out, you're absolutely free to do so. And it's free to look into, but you won't get your pleasure craft unless you pay the $35. So
that's right.
You just need to.
It looks like they have monthly Zoom shows too.
Oh, do they?
Actually, yeah, that's a new thing we just kind of started doing is the little Zoom shows. Now, originally those were only members only. However, I believe we are getting to a point where we will be doing those more for whoever would like to view them. However, once again, everything I say is canon and also not canon at once. So don't sue me if I've got this shit wrong.
We can't. Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can be sued if, like you said, everything is canon and is not as well. So that's fair. Wow, man, this has been. I'm really glad I didn't. I told you earlier, I really didn't know anything about it, and I'm glad I didn't really look into it. I know Pat did a little bit of reading, but I did not, and I kind of let the hype speak for itself. And I don't know. I think I'm probably gonna become a member. I think I'm going to send in my $35 and get my pleasure.
It'll be the greatest decision you've made this minute.
This minute. I think it sounds like a great idea. I mean, my gosh, I get excuses. Well, hell, I've pleasure craft. Yes, I'm there for it. That's
They sell masks. They sell face masks. And they're labeled as Bob bandanas / fertility masks.
Fertility.
So I definitely like.
It's the perfect way to keep the COVID out of your system and your seed in someone else's system.
Exactly. See, Pat, you can't say you're not sold.
And they are guaranteed to work unless you don't want them to.
Listen, I think my problem with this is that it's I appreciate every single aspect of it, but I don't want this to. It's like I appreciate the aesthetics, but like I feel like it forces don't make me talk about religion and shit.
Is it too sacrilegious?
No, God,
is that the issue?
Oh my fucking God, not at all. It's not even that. It's just that I feel like that's why I just let you talk, because I was like, this is funny. This guy, and that, no offense when I say it's funny, it's like I'm laughing at your belief system, but like it was funny. It was presented in a humorous way. It was very entertaining. All the stuff is very good, but I don't think that I think that what it's true if you how do I put this? I think if it's trying to land, I think all right,
Pat,
I'm just gonna shut the fuck up.
Pat, have you ever
I'm just gonna shut the fuck up.
Have you ever played the game? Have you ever played the game?
You just lost if you're thinking about the game.
Right. You just lost the game. So that's what this is.
Only better, because you don't lose when you think about it. You don't lose when you're not thinking about it. You're always winning.
Right. It's the game, but you're always winning.
Exactly.
I'm not high enough to understand what the fuck you
we might be.
You caught me on an off night.
I think it might be a generational thing. I think we just might be too young, and that might be too much of a.
No, I get what this is doing. It's performance art. I get 100% what it is. But I think if you want to talk about it in a philosophical context, then this conversation turns into something else. I think if you want to talk about this as like. If you want to talk about this as like this, it's this joke. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not fucking stupid, but like, I think if you want to talk about, core belief systems and like fucking an organized religion, like, I think that's a different conversation, and we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not shying away from that at all, but I just feel like it's like are we going to get? Do we want to have an in-depth conversation about organized religion, or are we just laughing at the aesthetic here? Because I like the aesthetic. I like the picture of the dude with the fucking pipe, and the mask thing is funny, and like I get, it's somewhat juvenile humor, but it's still funny and witty, and it's not, it's very good.
And that's honestly the best part about the church, because you will have people who can look at it just from that face value, the let's just enjoy the joke, but even though we call ourselves Subgeniuses, you would be very surprised at the number of members who actually got well past that and got into the art is better, or is imitating life, is imitating art, is imitating a mirage, is imitating a mystery. And that's the best part, because you can have you've got both sides of the coin with our church.
Right. Yeah, right, exactly. So you can have it, you can do both. And I think that I think that we did a pretty good job doing both. I think that, we touched on the philosophicalness of it a little bit, which is important, but I think that what more people really wanted to hear about, I think I feel like a lot of people have heard about, what it's doing, what it's representing, but I think more people are curious about what exactly it is, to be honest. And that's what we did here.
I think it's
about what it is.
It's beautifully structured, as the Reverend just said. It's beautifully structured so that it can really take on the form of, it goes as deep as you want to go into it. And I think that I get the Discordian aspect of it. I get the fact that the chaotic element of it. I think all that stuff is good. But like I said, I think I don't know. I just view there as being at some point there's a difference, and I think if you start lumping everything into the same category, can be a kind of simplistic way to look at things, and you're glancing over a lot of the stuff that has value, and I don't know. I'm not like a weirdo fucking it's not that I can't take a joke.
Hey, look, this is the thing. We are trying very hard, and I like to think we are succeeding at being the funnest, craziest cult you've never heard of.
Exactly. Yep.
And if today is the first day that your listeners are hearing about it, then so much the better, because now I've just brought my faith to the people one more time, and that's really what it's all about. It's getting out there and getting it to those people who absolutely need it. This is an organization for non-joiners. We need the kind of people who, when you say question authority, we need the people who ask why.
Yeah.
We need the people who are going to draw crayon on the wall because they don't know what else to do. We need the people who will cut the paper just because they can.
Yep.
Yep.
What's your take on the documentary? Would you recommend that to the audience?
The documentary is a very well done piece, and basically, like I said, stepping out of character for just a second. Ivan Stang and Philo Drummond started this thing in 1980. That was their first reckoning with Bob, as it were.
Okay.
So yes, really a 40-year organization.
Okay.
And now that all of the younger the young guys who started this are successful cult leaders at this point, they decided that they'd pull back the wool over from your eyes so that you can see exactly how we came about to have this beautiful conversation today.
Oh, so it's a really good origin story.
Yeah, kind of an origin story. Also kind of a like better than Split. Like if Unbreakable was our origin story, then we did a little bit better in the end with Split.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
That does make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
That does make sense. Okay, so you'd recommend. I'll have to check. I'll check it out, definitely. I didn't know that was a thing. I would have watched it.
Yeah, available for sale on Vudu, and as Pat said, Amazon. It's also available for purchase in couple of other places. I have no idea where, but you can definitely find it online. And eventually, I'm sure if you wait long enough, you can also illegally torrent it off the internet, because I know you assholes are out there. Pay us our money.
We don't endorse that, but yes, you can. But don't do it. But but you can.
Right. Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today, Reverend. I really do appreciate it.
It has been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Any closing statements there, Pat?
No, I got nothing. I had a good time.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming out.
Awesome.
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys next Wednesday.